So for today's deep dive, we're asking a pretty massive question. Is there a science or maybe a lost instruction manual to our spiritual vitality that we're completely missing?
To answer that, we have to look at a really fascinating, eclectic stack of sources today.
Yeah.
It's a very strange mix.
It really is.
We have excerpts from a metaphysical text called Cosmic Energy and the Path of Spiritual Awakening. We have translations of Sikh scripture, specifically the Gurbani, looking at the Sohila Sahib and the Swayas by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and then a very modern, somewhat fringe report on vibrational vitality and aura restoration.
Talk about an odd couple. You've got ancient spiritual philosophy sitting right next to, theories about electromagnetic fields.
Mm-hmm.
But the mission today is to explore this claim that humans aren't just flesh and bone. The argument here is that we are light and waves, and that modern technology might literally be cooling down our natural energetic heat. You know that feeling when you look at your phone and you see the battery icon just turn red?
Oh, wait.
It hits 20%, maybe 10%, and you get that little spike of immediate, almost visceral anxiety. You start looking for a wall outlet, a portable charger, anything.
It's a modern survival instinct, really. We feel like we can't function without the charge.
Right. But here's the question I want to ask you today, and I want you listening to really be honest with yourself about this. How often do you feel like you are the one running on 10% battery?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean just, I need a nap tired. I mean that I've slept for 8 hours, I've had my coffee, and I still feel like I'm running on fumes. Kind of tired.
That's a different kind of exhaustion. It's not just physical fatigue, it's a deep, humming sense of depletion. It's that feeling of being disconnected, even though, you are probably the most digitally connected human being in history.
Exactly. We are hyper-connected but energetically flatlining. So for today's deep dive, we're asking a pretty massive question. Is there a science or maybe a lost instruction manual to our spiritual vitality that we're completely missing?
To answer that, we have to look at a really fascinating, eclectic stack of sources today.
Yeah.
It's a very strange mix.
It really is.
We have excerpts from a metaphysical text called Cosmic Energy and the Path of Spiritual Awakening. We have translations of Sikh scripture, specifically the Gurbani, looking at the Sohila Sahib and the Swayas by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and then a very modern, somewhat fringe report on it is a bold hypothesis. It suggests we're looking for energy in all the wrong places. We look to food or sleep or caffeine, but these sources argue we're missing the primary charge.
So let's unpack this. The first source starts with a pretty heavy concept. It basically says, forget the labels.
Right.
It argues that if you strip away all the religious dogma, the politics of religion, the hats, the buildings, reality is just a play of energy and elements.
Right. It argues that the universe doesn't know religion. It doesn't know sect. It only knows laws, energy, and elements. The text calls this divine energy. And what's fascinating is that it tries to bridge the gap between spiritual language and, scientific language.
It does.
It claims the universe is powered by this energy, specifically citing invisible waves.
Okay, but this is where my skeptic radar pings a little bit. The source throws out some specific numbers. It mentions frequencies like 1 gigahertz and talks about white energy coming from the sun. Why 1 gigahertz? Is that a measured thing or is that just sounding sciencey?
That is a great question. And in the context of this source, I think 1 gigahertz seems to be used more as a benchmark for high frequency rather than some kind of peer-reviewed measurement of God.
Okay.
It's trying to quantify the invisible. The core idea is that this white light isn't just brightness, it's a carrier wave. And the claim is that this light splits into the 7 colors, red, orange, yellow, and so on, which then correspond to the energy centers in the human body.
So it's a classic prism metaphor, but applied to our
To our biology, exactly.
Yeah.
The source asserts that we are not just biological machines, we are creatures of light and waves.
Creatures of light and waves.
And to understand that, you have to look at the ingredients. The source introduces the concept of Panchtattva, or the 5 elements.
I feel like we hear about the elements a lot in, yoga classes or fantasy novels, but let's actually break this down. According to the source, everything, from a galaxy far, far away to the hand holding your phone right now, is made of 5 things. Walk us through them.
Sure, let's start with space, or Akash. This represents expansion and consciousness. In a human, this is your ability to hold space for ideas, your awareness.
Okay, so if I'm low on space, I'm probably feeling claustrophobic or narrow-minded.
Precisely. Next is air, or Vayu. This is motion. It's the life force, or prana. It governs movement, not just walking, but the movement of thoughts, the movement of breath.
Fire, Agni.
Agni is crucial. That's energy and transformation. Digestion is fire, turning food into fuel. But ambition is also fire.
So if I have too much fire, I'm burned out or angry. If I have too little, I'm sluggish and I can't digest my lunch.
Correct. Then you have water, jal, representing fluidity in life. This is your emotional flow, your adaptability. And finally, earth, prithvi. This is your solid base, your structure, your nutrition.
The bones and the muscles.
Exactly.
It's interesting to think of yourself as a recipe. Like, maybe today I'm 40% fire and only 5% earth, and that's why I'm snapping at everyone and forgetting to eat.
That is exactly how the Source wants you to see it. It argues that true spirituality isn't about fighting for superiority, which the text calls power games, but about experiencing cosmic unity. It's about balancing those elements within yourself so you resonate with the universe.
Which leads us to the big, so what? If we're made of these cosmic ingredients and we're designed to be in balance, why do we feel so chaotic? Why is the default state for so many of us stressed and scattered?
Yeah.
This is where the Gurbani sources come in, and honestly, the tone shift here is intense.
It is. We move from metaphysical theory to existential urgency. We're looking at the Sohila Sahib, which includes lines by Guru Arjan Dev Ji, and the metaphor used for life here isn't a long, winding road where you can take your time.
No.
It's a fleeing opportunity.
There's this one line that really just stopped me in my tracks. Day and night, your age is decreasing.
It's stark, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we know we're getting older,
Yeah.
but phrasing it as decreasing feels different. It sounds like a countdown.
That's the intent. We tend to live as if we have infinite time in the bank. We procrastinate our peace. The text is reminding us that time is literally leaking away drop by drop. The goal, according to this scripture, isn't to accumulate wealth or status, which are temporary, but to use this shrinking window to serve the good, referred to as saints, and to chant the name or name.
And it talks about finding the true home, which sounds nice, but what does that actually mean for the listener who's stuck in traffic right now?
The true home refers to ending the cycle of birth and death, returning to the source. But in a practical sense, it's about finding a place of permanence in a world that is constantly changing. It's about anchoring yourself.
And speaking of anchoring, we have this other section from the Swayas by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. This deals with the psychology of the person trying to find that anchor. It talks about the nature of God, or Akal Purakh, and the description is really, really specific.
It is. The text describes the Creator as being beyond all the things that mess us up. God is beyond lust, anger, greed, attachment, fear, disease, or sorrow.
Okay, so the Creator is the ultimate stable system. No bugs, no glitches.
You could say that.
Yeah.
But here's the connection to your battery analogy. The text asks the devotee, why do you waver? If the Creator, who is referred to as Padmapati in this context, is your protector and has absolutely no fear, why are you living in fear?
That is a powerful question. It's connecting theology to, well, energy management.
Exactly. Think about it. What drains your battery faster than anything else?
Fear.
Fear, anxiety, worrying about the future. If you truly believed you were connected to a source that was fearless, you wouldn't leak that energy. You would be stable.
So the argument is that our low battery isn't just because we're busy, it's because we are afraid. We're vibrating with fear instead of vibrating with that divine energy.
Yes. But the sources also acknowledge that staying fearless is incredibly hard because of the environment we live in. And this brings us to the metaphor of the Dark Age, or Kali Yuga.
This imagery was so vivid, it talks about kings becoming butchers.
It's from a Shabad by Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Kings becoming butchers, dharma or righteousness flying away on wings. It describes falsehood as a dark amavas, or new moon, completely hiding the moon of truth.
The moon of truth is nowhere to be seen. That feels uncomfortably modern. I mean, just scroll through your newsfeed for 5 minutes, deepfakes, misinformation, spin. It can feel like falsehood is the default setting.
It creates a sense of profound disorientation. The text says, I am exhausted searching in this darkness. I cannot find the path. It validates that struggle. It's saying, hey, it's not just you. The environment itself is obscured. The signal-to-noise ratio is terrible.
So we have this ancient setup, We are elemental beings, time is running out, the world is dark and confusing, but we have a fearless protector if we can tune in. But now let's bridge this to the modern era.
Right.
Because the third part of our stack suggests that this darkness isn't just a metaphor for moral confusion, it might be a physical reality of our modern infrastructure.
This is where we get into the vibrational vitality report.
Yeah.
And it introduces a concept called the low voltage theory.
I love this analogy, even if the science gets a little wonky. It says, ideally, humans should run at full capacity. The source uses a metaphor of 60 degrees Fahrenheit of vitality.
Right.
Now, I know Fahrenheit is temperature, not voltage, and 60 degrees isn't even that hot. But stick with the metaphor. It says most of us, due to congestion, are running at 40, 35, or even 25.
And it claims this low voltage has physical consequences. It's not just a mood. It affects digestion, blood pressure, sugar balance. It claims that when your energetic voltage drops, your body's systems literally slow down.
So what's draining the voltage? The source points the finger at EMFs, electromagnetic fields, but it distinguishes between two types, natural and artificial.
Right, and this is the crux of their argument.
Okay, so natural EMF comes from the sun and the earth. The source describes this natural energy as carrying heat. It claims this vitalizes the human aura, which makes intuitive sense. Sunlight feels good. But then it talks about artificial EMF power grids, gadgets, Wi-Fi towers. The source describes this as cold radiation. It says it has no heat or life force, and it claims that when these two collide, the artificial cold radiation prevents our aura from absorbing the natural hot energy.
That is the visual they are painting, a blockage.
But hold on, I have to pause here. Cold radiation. Physics-wise, radiation is energy, energy is heat, a microwave definitely isn't cold.
Yeah.
Is this source just making up physics?
I'm so glad you caught that. And to be fair, the source material itself actually includes a really honest true versus fake analysis section, which is rare to see in these kinds of texts.
Oh, really?
Yes. They basically fact-check themselves. They admit that scientifically, saying the Earth's magnetic field has a temperature of 60 degrees is inaccurate. NASA wouldn't use those terms. Electromagnetic waves from your router aren't cold in the thermodynamic sense.
So if they admit the science is fake, why are we even talking about it?
Because they argue the metaphor is true to the human experience. Think about how you feel after sitting in a park under the sun for an hour. You feel warmed, charged, alive. That's the heat. Now think about how you feel after sitting in an air-conditioned server room or just scrolling on your phone for 3 hours. You feel drained, stiff, maybe a bit cold or static.
Okay, that I can relate to. It's that wired but tired feeling.
Exactly. So while the physics of cold EMF is pseudoscience, the biological response to artificial environments is real. We know blue light disrupts sleep. We know sedentary tech use causes stagnation. The source is using cold radiation as a language to describe that dead feeling of modern technology.
Got it. So we are low battery because we are surrounding ourselves with cold input screens, concrete, artificial lights, and blocking the hot inputs like nature and sunlight.
Precisely. We are starving the Panchtava, the elements of their natural fuel.
So how do we fix it? We're living in the dark age,
Yeah.
surrounded by cold EMF, running on 20% battery. The source actually gives a prescription for restoration,
It does. It talks about aura cleaning.
which sounded a little bit like a spa brochure, I have to say.
A little bit. It suggests a bath with 50 grams of salt, taken 24 hours prior to doing healing exercises.
50 grams exact.
The specificity is part of the ritual, but the idea is simple. Salt has been used in almost every culture to cleanse. It's about resetting the skin and the system to remove that static so the body can resume absorbing natural energy.
But there was a deeper concept in the restoration section that I thought was much more profound than the salt bath. It was about how energy actually flows, and this blew my mind a little bit.
You're talking about the breath concept.
Yes. The text states, divine energy cannot be stored.
This is such a radical shift from how we usually think. We are obsessed with storage. We want savings accounts. We want full pantries. We want 100% battery. We want a bank sleep on the weekends.
We are hoarders. We want security.
But the source says spiritual vitality is like breath. One comes, one goes.
Yeah.
You cannot store breath for next Tuesday. You cannot breathe through your retirement. You have to breathe now.
That is actually kind of terrifying and liberating at the same time.
It completely shifts the role of the human. We aren't batteries to be charged up and capped off. We are receivers. The source says meditation, devotion, or even just sitting in nature. These things open the receiver,
Okay.
but you have to rely on the flow moment to moment.
So if I stop meditating or I stop connecting, the flow stops. I can't just bank it and coast for a month.
Precisely. It demands constant presence. It demands that you show up for your own life every single breath. If you are hoarding, you are blocked. If you are receiving, you are alive.
That redefines the whole low battery problem. Maybe we feel low because we are trying to run on stored energy instead of plugging into the flow.
That is the core insight.
Before we wrap up, I want to touch on one last thing from the stack. There was a note at the end about senior power and something called Mabardi Vision 2047. It felt a little specific to India, but the underlying message felt universal.
It is deeply universal. Mabarti refers to Mother India, and Vision 2047 is about the centenary of independence. But the context here is fascinating for any listener. The source is making a call to the older generation, the seniors.
Why seniors? Usually tech reports are obsessed with the youth.
Because of the dark age we talked about earlier, the source argues that in a world of deepfakes, AI, and artificial intelligence, we are drowning in information but starving for wisdom.
So artificial intelligence is the cold EMF of the mind.
Exactly. The source argues that seniors, people who have lived through the cycles of time, who have real intelligence born of experience, have a duty to step up. It calls on them to counter fake influencers and negative media.
I like that. It's saying, hey, don't just retire and check out. We need your wisdom to filter the noise.
It grounds the whole episode. It says, don't just fix your aura for yourself. Use your clarity to help navigate the darkness for others. It turns self-help into community service.
So let's try to synthesize this massive, weird, wonderful stack. We have the 5 elements making up our hardware. We have the Gurbani warning us that time is short and fear is the ultimate battery drain. And we have this modern theory that we're blocking our own reception of life force with our artificial environments.
It really paints a picture of the human condition as a struggle for alignment. We are elemental beings trying to live in a synthetic world. The challenge, whether you view it through the lens of Sikh scripture or aura mechanics, is the same. How do I maintain my heat, my vitality, my fearlessness when everything around me is trying to cool me down and distract me?
And the answer seems to be, open the receiver, clean the static, maybe take a salt bath if you're into that. But mostly, realize you can't hoard the energy, you just have to let it flow through you.
Which is the ultimate act of trust.
It really is. It's trusting that the next breath will come.
And that the divine energy or the natural EMF, whatever you want to call it, is abundant if we just step out of the interference.
So, here is the final provocative thought for you to carry into your day. We talked about how energy cannot be stored, only received like breath.
Right.
Think about your own stress levels right now. How much of that stress comes from trying to store things, trying to store security, store certainty, store energy for a hypothetical crisis?
And what would happen if you stopped trying to be a storage unit?
Exactly. If you stop trying to hoard and just focused on keeping your receiver clear, keeping yourself open to what is happening right now, how much lighter would you feel?
That is the question.
Something to mull over while you look for your next charger. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
So for today's deep dive, we're asking a pretty massive question. Is there a science or maybe a lost instruction manual to our spiritual vitality that we're completely missing?
To answer that, we have to look at a really fascinating eclectic stack of sources today.
Yeah.
It's a very strange mix.
It really is.
We have excerpts from a metaphysical text called Cosmic Energy and the Path of Spiritual Awakening. We have translations of Sikh scripture, specifically the Gurbani, looking at the Sohila Sahib and the Swayas by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and then a very modern, somewhat fringe report on vibrational vitality and aura restoration.
Talk about an odd couple. You've got ancient spiritual philosophy sitting right next to, theories about electromagnetic fields. But the mission today is to explore this claim that humans aren't just flesh and bone. The argument here is that we are light and waves, and that modern technology might literally be cooling down our natural energetic heat.